Hi, folks. Looks like everybody's starting to filter in here. Welcome to Maximizing Multifamily Marketing, how analytics and attribution can help you reach your marketing goals. We are excited to be presenting this webinar today, and we're going to just wait a minute or so while everybody gets in and takes their seats in our virtual webinar room. So just hang tight for 1 second here. And we will get going, but we are excited. We have the Razz team with us today, and they've got some great content on things that that lots of folks, including myself, aren't the best about around analytics and attribution and trying to understand how to best use them to reach your marketing goals. So should be good. All right, looks like our numbers have pretty much stabilized. So let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Maximizing Multifamily Marketing, how analytics and attribution can help you reach your marketing goals. We're excited for this webinar today, and hopefully you are too. And if you, as you're listening to our presenters, have a question, we love to hear from you. So go ahead and just hit the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen, type your question and hit send. And we will answer questions in a variety of ways as we go, if we can, and it makes sense, or at the end during our Q&A period, or we also can, if we have too many or whatever, we can get back to you guys as well after the fact, if it makes sense to do that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to our presenters today. So Andreina and JP, you want to take over?
Yes, thank you, Kristen, and good morning and good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. So my name is Andreina Labarca. I am the manager of website onboarding and support, and here's JP. He is the senior solutions engineer and partnership manager here at Razz. And we've been working for Razz for several years now, right? And we continue to have ongoing conversations with our clients and our prospects on the importance of analytics and tracking for effective leasing, right? So today we're going to be chatting about the basics of digital marketing for multifamily and what you need to know if you are either moonlighting as a marketer, or if you already have some base in marketing, we're gonna try and get you that information. So I just want to start by saying that and bringing into the conversation the concept of centralization of technology. We know that everyone is talking about centralization nowadays, right? Because we want to streamline processes, we want to become more efficient, we want to try and have everything under the same roof. So we've heard about this concept, and it's not only for technology, but we've also seen it in the workforce, right? Because we've seen how now property managers and even team members from other departments are being asked to take more responsibility on other departmental roles, and marketing is the biggest one of them. So you may ask yourself, where do I even begin? So that's how we're going to kick this off. So I'll give it to you, JP. And yeah.
All right. So I think where we are going to start with a little bit of the analytics basics, right? But before we jump into that slide, just to give a little context to Razz Interactive and who we are as a whole, is that we started servicing most of the CPG brands and entertainment brands before we went into multifamily. So I think one of our big distinguishers or value propositions is that our designers have the design thinking from outside of the multifamily industry. That's one of the things that we've actually worked with on the past on numerous projects, from Pepsi to Mountain Dew to Universal Music, right? And in doing so, we've gotten insights on how to market other products and services as well. So what we will be going over today are, one, the analytics basics, some digital marketing 101, a little bit of a consumer journey profile that we put together. And then Andreina is going to go over the marketer's dilemma, some things that are very consistent with marketers and things that we're trying to minimize gray area on. And then taking the guess out of the marketing is going to be a section where we're going to focus on just minimizing guesswork trying to get a little bit more honed in on the audience. And then at the end, we'll do a Q&A closing round just to answer any questions. But we will be looking at the chat. So if it does make sense while we're talking, we will address that. All right. So starting with the analytics basics, analytics are basically the tools that we need to find the who, where, and what of the activity on your website. Okay, guys, this is very important because if you don't know who you're marketing to, where they're coming from, or why they're coming to your website, you could be burning dollars into the dumpster fire, and we don't want you to do that. So when we know that collecting data are the primary tools that allow us to understand the behavior of these prospects on our websites, we want to understand what they're buying, how they're getting to the website, and what they're doing here. So when collected properly, it can give you and your company insights to making these predictions and decisions on the market more effectively. So again, minimizing that gray area and also understanding who and what and where equation of that whole scenario. Now, one of the examples I like to kind of throw out there is that we're thinking of us having a brick and mortar store, right? We go back to the basics and simplify why it's important to collect this data. So when we have a brick and mortar, you have very little information about these customers and you're selling a numerous amount of products, but you don't have any information on who is actually coming into that store, what they're looking at, if they're going to the gardening section, are they looking just for makeup, or are we actually going in there for food, right? So what we're doing is we're trying to get the decision behavior behind their purchases. And that is exactly what we need to do with your property website, okay? Your website is a digital store. In other words, an e-commerce store. Your products are your inventory that's available, right? Rental apartments. And what we do with these analytics and the data that we collect, it just pretty much allows you to understand this behavior to a granular extent that pushes you into making better informed decisions. So why is it so crucial? Let's jump into that. So on the digital marketing side of the 101 things, it's going to be a little bit of a higher level approach to this. But what we want to do is first understand that audience I keep talking about. This portion of the equation is key because understanding who's visiting your website and where they're coming from will help you tailor your marketing efforts on your campaigns, where to spend that money, and see how your leasing intelligence is faring with your dollars that are going out to attract this prospect traffic. Now, this takes us to the next factor. You want to measure that effectiveness of those campaigns that you're spending dollars on, whether that's on the social media end of things, your email marketing, maybe ads through PPC or social, right? And you want to know which campaigns are more effective, right? If we can say we're spending $5 to generate, one conversion, or we're spending $2 to generate one conversion, you're going to want to know what's happening with that equation and how you got there, right? So that you can rinse and repeat that for multiple properties in your portfolio. So that being said, if we know that the path that the user that they're following, right, on your website is a key factor, we're going to want to know what pages they're looking at. We're going to want to know what actions that they're actually taking, where they're spending more time, and even where they're leaving the site, because this will help you correct those pages. It'll give you insights on how to keep them on longer, right? And it will help you focus where to put your marketing budget for the best results, okay? And we will go in deeper on this later with Andreina's part, but keep that in mind, right? How to maximize that budget with extra granularity on the visitors that are coming to your website. So now this is a great time to bring up Google Analytics 4, right? Well, actually, no, we're going to go and talk about the attribution aspect. Attribution is typically when we have a user, whether it's typically going to be anonymous until they fill out a form fill, right, guys? We don't know who that traffic is if they don't fill out a contact card. But with Razz Interactive on certain CMS systems, we can attribute anonymous data, merge through IP address, and attribute it to the known information. But when we talk about attribution, we want to talk about it as a detective tool that helps you figure out which marketing channels or touch point are the most responsible for converting your visitors into customers, which are your prospects, right? And this is what's going to inform you where to focus on your marketing budget for your best results. And we will talk about this a little bit later with Andreina. Now, the Google Analytics equation. This is where it walks into the room. And as we all know, there's been a massive change with Google, right? They went from universal analytics to more of a trend event-based analytics model, right? Once we did that from universal analytics to GA4, not only was there a bigger privacy driver in there, right? Eliminating a little bit of the granularity that we're used to. We get trends now because of that, where it's multiple variables into a trend, but we make it easier for you to read that. And that's what Google Analytics is doing now. Now, what we need to understand about this is that GA4 is based on events and the parameters versus our old friend Universal Analytics, where it was based on sessions and page views. So what we want to do is go from the session and page view mindset to what are events like button clicks, form submissions, page views, outbound link clicks, etc. Right? And then what we want to know is now an event, think a session or a page scroll, click, or file download has its parameters. And what these parameters are helping you do, guys, it's just giving you more context to the events that it is actually following along. So when we have these events in our parameters mindset, we can then ask how many times was a specific button click, how many conversions does it or page views does it take to get an actual conversion at this certain equation that you're running. And that's what it's all about now. So when we take that into context, right, in our next slide, we're talking about like a typical consumer journey. And for this approach, we're going to use a made up prospect. Her name is Sarah. All right. Sarah's in her late 20s. She's a young professional looking for an apartment. But guess what? She's on her laptop. She's browsing the web. And now she sees the power of digital marketing because now we can help Sarah discover Sunshine Meadows, that's in Dallas, Texas, right? And what we can do here is we can create or have infinite paths to follow to the property. Now, that means she can come from social, she can come from a direct landing, she saw something on the side of the road. There's a lot of variables in how somebody comes to your website. But in this case, what is king is Googling. So Googling luxury apartments in Dallas, Texas generates 50 different results. And now her cookies get stored and her information, assuming that she's not in incognito mode, is being stored in cache, right? So now she clicks your property, but as any shopper, she's probably not going to apply first time she sees. She's probably going to start seeing social ads. And we've all seen these Instagram ads after we've been thinking about moving into a place, right? Following us from page to page. The thing with this now is that she's going to go and check the reviews of a property. That's reputation management. And this is important because this is the digital form of word of mouth marketing. And as we know, the cheapest and most effective is still word of mouth. Who are you going to trust? A paid actor or someone that you know that's saying something good about a product, right? The trust is higher with someone you know. So once she does click on that, she won't apply, she will get ads. And now that she's done the reputation management aspect, she's probably going to go on apartments.com. She's going to go probably to Zillow to find a little bit of additional information. And we all know nowadays users want to gather as much information as possible before committing to a purchase. And in this case, that purchase is a lease. So as we go to the next slide, we finally see Sarah a few weeks later, and she decides to schedule a tour through the website. But where did she really come from, right? Where did she come from? You're doing all this work, you're setting up all of this lead generation, and we need to know where she came from. While it is a combination of a lot of variables and sources, she made the final decision after visiting a specific place on the web. And Andreina, this is where she's going to come in and talk a little bit about the dynamic attribution process of this consumer journey, and I think is one of the most critical parts as well.
Thank you, JP. So yeah, JP actually closed with, now everybody got to meet Sarah, right? And JP closed with a great question, which is, where did Sarah really come from, right? And to be more specific, how did Sarah land on your website when she was ready to make the decision to schedule a tour? And if we want to be more specific, because plot twist, Sarah will be moving to Sunshine Meadows. Where did she came from in that moment that she made the decision to apply to your property website? This is what we're calling today the marketer's dilemma. How can we make sure that this lead is attributed to the right source? Because at the end of the day, we all want to have more leads like Sarah, right? Because she ended up scheduling a tour, and later on we'll learn that she will move to the property. So the average consumer typically leverages as many as 8 different resources before making the decision to either tour your property or move down to it, right? So we want to make sure that we are minimizing the gray area in your ROI. So am I spending too much money in the wrong places? How do you even know what the wrong places are? How do I know where I should be allocating my marketing dollars, right? And we've been in a position where we've heard marketers saying, I have a bunch of leads, but I still have several backend units. And even though it's important that we all understand that there are a ton of factors that can affect these results, we're focusing on the marketing that we have in front of us, and we want to make sure that we get high value leads, right? And another thing, when maybe you're the person that's setting up the campaigns, maybe you're not, you're just receiving the data, and you want to give your team the right ammo to make better decisions. So where we want to jump in and help you, it's to taking the guess out, because it's a guessing game. So how and what tools can we give you to take the guess out of your marketing? I think we can all agree in here that every consumer journey, it's like a fingerprint, because it's very unique and distinct. But once you get to understand your target market and their shopping patterns, then you've won, because you are able to invest in the correct places. So I'm going to start by, I apologize, okay. So I'm going to start by talking about how we can combine Google Analytics and dynamic attribution to help you achieve your marketing goals. So we've heard from a lot of marketers that you have to log into 3, 4, 5 different venues to review the data, right? So what we're trying to give you today is two important tools that we have in the backend of the CMS, that if you have access to them, it's an easy way to digest the data and either make your own decisions or go back to your marketing team, right? So I'm going to start with the Google Analytics dashboard. I don't know how many of you have gone into the backend of Google Analytics.com, but I do know that it can be a little intimidating, especially after how JP mentioned, it used to be Universal Analytics, now it's GA4, and they changed probably 80% of what the content that we were used to see there for years, right? And sometimes you end up having to click in different places to being able to find the data, and you don't even know what it means, or you don't know what's valuable to you. So right in the backend of our property, of our CMS, I apologize, we have a dashboard that we curated to show the information that can be valuable to you to create this persona, right? And understand your target market and or understand the people that are visiting your website. You can see everything from users, event counts, views per page on your website. And you don't have to go to Google to analytics.com and spend 30 minutes trying to get the data that you need. In here, it's at a glance, right? Saves time, and it's within the same CMS. And in addition to this, you can actually see your floor plans, right? What models are more popular? Which models are not that popular? So do I need to run concessions on my models that have been vacant for months? And having this information at a glance, that it's very, it has the granularity that you need, and it's shown in a way that it's easy to digest, can definitely help you or your team. When using this data from analytics, you want to also add right next to it attribution, right? Because you want to know how did the user ended up landing on my website and applying. So we can actually go back to Sarah. So where did Sarah really come from? And this is where dynamic attribution can help you see that granularity on your website. It's an easy setup where you have support to include your UTM campaigns, your vanity numbers, your emails for tracking, and it can tell you seamlessly without user interaction where she came from. Because the reality is that, yeah, she might have visited your website when she was ready to make the decision of moving in, but the reality is that maybe that's not what happened. Maybe she was just buying for furniture in Facebook Marketplace, and she came up through an ad of your property, and she thought about it. She said, okay, now I'm ready. And she goes to the ad, she goes to the property, she applies to it, and now you can actually go back and see the value of that lead. Like, you can attribute it to Facebook Marketplace as an example. And that's where you maybe want to start investing more money, because maybe Sarah is the perfect target market, and that's where you want to start putting in your marketing dollars, right? So, well, we've been talking about her in most of the webinar. So Sarah, it's finally ready to move in, right? And you already know where she came from. So it's exactly what I just explained before. That's a visibility you want to have in your campaigns to make sure that you invest the dollars where you need to. And then here are the trackable elements when it comes to digital marketing, and most specifically to this dynamic attribution dashboard that I just spoke about. And maybe this is very basic 101, but it's items that are trackable versus non-trackable. And when I'm saying non-trackable, it's because that's basic marketing, another monster. Any items that you can track through your website, it's any digital campaigns pretty much, from Facebook, Instagram, Google ads, white space ads, apartments.com, Zillow, Rent, and I believe there are so many other sources, but this gets you an idea of the digital world. And last but not least, because I know that we covered the concept of analytics and then showed you a couple of tools that you can have within the same environment to track your data and that it's easier to digest, we just want to make sure that you understand that we're not trying to replace your CRM, right? We're just trying to give you tools that can give you better data to make better decisions. Because as we all know, analytics and data collections are the eyes and ears of your digital marketing efforts. And that's all we have. We can open the room for Q&A.
Thanks, Andreina and JP. Yeah, so really good intro and overview of analytics and attribution and how they play together, and what Razz makes available to let you see everything in one place. So hopefully that's been helpful. And I would say now, if anybody has questions about what they've talked about, feel free to just go ahead and click the Q&A button, type your question, hit submit, and it'll come through to us.
All right, we got a question from Erica Anderson asking if the dashboard is available on our accounts. I would ask which dashboard, but most of our iterations or instances, you have access to most of this dashboard. Andreina, is there any?
Yes, so the analytics dashboard, it's available for all the users. It just needs to be, it needs implementation. It's very quick. It's just adding the GA tag in the backend, and you will see the report being generated in there. And your DPM or support can definitely help you with that if you are already a client, which I'm assuming you are. And then for dynamic attribution, it depends on your subscription, because it's only available through premium subscriptions on the website.
Right. And then it's also good to know that the Google Analytics, if it's not set up, we will help you create a Google Analytics account, but we will not configure or do any type of custom events or trends. We're only going to do whatever the out-of-the-box experience is. But nonetheless, we will help you get a Google Analytics account started if there isn't any.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. And then also, just to touch base while we wait for another Q&A, there's some untrackable events, right? And there's just the nature of not being on a digital platform, right? Because whatever we do in the digital domain leaves a footprint, and that footprint can be recorded, and then we can kind of quantitatively grab that data and make sense of it. When we're in the real world, there's not many events that get recorded, like looking at a billboard, hearing a radio ad, things of that nature. But we do have a solution that can kind of support untrackable events, and that's creating custom form fields when they fill out contact cards, guys. So if you ever need a custom field that asks, where did you hear us from? Or did you hear us on the radio? Or any custom untrackable events that may need to be recorded, we can kind of supplement that with custom form fields in our forms on our websites. And I just wanted to bring that up just because a lot of other vendors in the industry typically restrict the form fields, or they charge extra, or it's just whatever they have out of the box. So hopefully that makes sense. All right.
Thanks, JP.
No problem. All right. So I assume everybody in this call has a Google Analytics account or has worked with it in some capacity. Not sure if I'm going to be able to get any responses right now, but any questions in regards to that, or any levels of subscription, if you guys are, have any concerns on what level and what type of features and benefits your packages currently have, feel free to reach out to us. I will take the time with you to go over all that if you need that.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like I think we're maybe one last call for questions, folks. We had a couple come in that we answered. The recording for this webinar, as we always do, we make the recording available after the webinar. So we'll post it and we'll send an email out to everyone to let you know how to access it. And that way you can share it with folks. And again, this was a pretty basic overview, I would say, of all these different things there. It's all out there. And I think, the thing that's important to really understand is that there's so much data available to you to really be able to understand at a granular level what's driving all the tours, what's driving the leases. And if you're not doing it, your competitors are, right? So if you're in a place where you just feel like you don't know enough about what you should be doing, or you don't have the right tools in place, like, reach out to us, right? Because we are happy to point you in directions for things. We're happy, if you're a customer, right, to have conversations about that. If you're not a customer, we're happy to talk about like how we can help you with that moving forward. There's just so much, and with Google Analytics 4, there's just so many opportunities, but you have to dive in a little bit to take advantage of those. So I think with that, doesn't look like there are any more questions. So I think we're going to just go ahead and say thank you very much, Andreina and JP, for the great information today. And folks, feel free to reach out if you have any further questions or need any more information. But thanks, everybody. Appreciate you joining us.
All righty, have a
Thank
good
you.
one.